Welcome to tonight's Tanya class. We are in Igeret Hakodesh, the fourth section of Tanya, and we're holding chapter 16, Perek Tezayin. As always, every chapter in Tanya, since it's the foundation of mysticism, is very, very profound and very specific, and you walk away with a beautiful lesson. So in this chapter of Tanya, the Alter Rebbe addresses an issue, which is actually an important issue according to the Alter Rebbe, and a little revolutionary, probably a little more than a little revolutionary, and that is the Alter Rebbe discusses in this chapter how we should give charity even when you're struggling. Now again, to be clear, according to Jewish law, there's different rules about when you give, how much you give, and if you're struggling, it might be a different issue, but the Alter Rebbe is talking from a Kabbalistic perspective and possibly some halachic issues about even if you're struggling, should you give charity? And the Alter Rebbe's position in this Perek of Tanya is that a person should give charity even if you're struggling. Now, what's interesting is that, generally speaking, the chapters of Tanya are chapters in Tanya. Few have a caption beforehand, and this one, it says on top, La'anshe Kodesh. That means the Alter Rebbe wrote this to a specific community. He wrote to a community, and as we see in the chapter of Tanya, the Alter Rebbe addresses a community. What was the story with this community? This was a community that was struggling financially. Now, if you're struggling financially, you're trying to survive. Now, even though they were struggling financially, the Alter Rebbe writes them as follows. That even though I know, so the first Alter Rebbe addresses what he heard, and which is the emes. Even though I know when I heard that you guys are struggling, and you can't pay your bills, whether they were tuition bills, or the grocery bills, or maybe the electric or the water bill in the house, you're struggling, and I also heard that you're borrowing funds to live. And so the Alter Rebbe starts off and he gives them a blessing. I want to bless you, you should be successful, and the God should give you everything you need, you should be able to pay your bills, you should have tremendous success, and all the wonderful things. And he actually invokes that God should have compassion, because compassion is a very, very strong blessing. So he's asking that God should have compassion on these people, and they should have everything they need. However, here the Alter Rebbe gets a little strong, to say the least, and he says, even though you're struggling, nevertheless, he says, I'm not happy to hear that you closed your hands and closed your hearts, not to give people that are less fortunate than you. In other words, what the Alter Rebbe is saying is like this: you're struggling, I get it. Can't pay your bills, things are tight, it's not the way it used to be. However, we're talking about, at that time the Alter Rebbe was campaigning strongly for communities in Israel, that people went to Israel to live there, to protect the land of Israel physically and spiritually, and they had nothing. There was no income there. So everything that they had, literally everything, came from outside of Israel, as gifts and as donations. So the Alter Rebbe says, guess what? You're struggling, true. And yes, you're both working hard and you can't pay your bills, but you have something. You have some sort of income. These people in Israel, who I'm beseeching you to help, and I have been beseeching you to help, they have nothing. And guess what? If we don't send them, they literally have nothing, and possibly starve to death. You're not starving to death, you're living in a real country, and you have who to borrow from, and you'll have work, and eventually you'll pay it back, and things will turn around. But they're starting with zero. And therefore the Alter Rebbe says, it's an obligation. You have to go ahead and help them. Now the question is why? The question is a simple question. If I'm struggling, I can't pay my bills, they couldn't pay their bills, and they're borrowing to live, it's like, why should they borrow to help them? Maybe let the other people, let them borrow. And the Alter addresses this issue and he says like this. First of all, he says, let's focus on the people that need help. They need help. They have nothing. Now, on one hand, I understand you're struggling, but the other is, let's look at them for a minute. If we, their brothers and sisters, us Jewish people, are not going to have compassion on them, to reach out and help them financially, who will? Who's going to help them? They have no one else. They should turn to who? Strangers? People that aren't their brothers and sisters, aren't their relatives, aren't from the same nation? So who is going to help them? Therefore the Alter Rebbe says, guess what? We have an obligation, biblically, as the verse says in the Torah, achiך imach, that your brother should live with you, which that means that if your brother is in trouble, you should stop and reach out to the person. Who should reach out? It doesn't say a cousin, a stranger, it says your brother. So if they are in trouble and they're struggling, achiך, which means that we have an obligation to stop what we're doing and help them. Now, so the Alter Rebbe realizes he's dealing with a smart crowd. Not smart, Alex, smart, educated, scholarly. And they're going to come back and say, it's true. It does say you should help your brother that's struggling. But it also says in Code of the Jewish Law, the Rambam brings it down, that if two people are walking in the desert, and one person has a jug of water, if they both drink it, they're both not going to make it out. They're both going to die. If one person, the one that has it, drinks it, he'll make it out. The other one will die, unfortunately. So what does the Rambam tell us? What should you do? Should you split it, or should you drink it yourself? That is very simple. Chayech, Kudmין. Your life comes first. Why? If it's a situation that you split the bottle, you both will make it out, for sure you should split it. But here, there's one bottle, and it's only enough for one. It's your bottle, so your life comes first. Why should you give it to the other guy? Why should you die if it's your bottle of water? But the Alter Rebbe says, you're going to come and argue and say, Chayech, Kudmין, your life comes first, because hey, you can't pay your bills, and you're borrowing. So the Alter Rebbe says, 1 second, you can't compare. Because that case that we say, that if you have one bottle, your life comes first, that means you have one bottle of water. If you drink it, you'll make it out. If you split it, you're both not going to make it out. However, and this is not the case over here, because the fact is, you have what to eat. Fine, you're behind in your bills, and you're borrowing money, but you have what to eat. You're not dying here. They have nothing. And if you don't take care of them, guess what? They are going to, God forbid, who knows what happened to them. So the rule of your life comes first is only when it's equals, when you're both struggling in the same level. But these people, the struggle is much greater. They have no one to turn to. And therefore it doesn't apply, and therefore you have to help them. That's issue number one, the Alter Rebbe says. So again, it's not equal, and therefore because it's not equal, you have to stop and help them. Now the Alter Rebbe goes even further and he says like this. Even in a case where it is equal, that means you're having the same struggle that they have, and the Alter Rebbe comes now from again, till now it's quoted the Jewish law. He quoted from the law, you still have to help them. Because it's different. But he says, let's even say in a case where it's equal. Now, according to Jewish law, you're exempt. Comes along the Alter Rebbe and he says, from a Kabbalistic perspective, guess what? You still have to help them. Why is that? Why do you still have to help them? And the Alter Rebbe says like this. Several reasons. Reason number one, the Alter Rebbe says very simple. When you go by the rules of the book, so those rules will come back to you. In other words, if you go by the rules, you're saying, listen, right now they need help. Your response is, I have nothing to give them. I myself, welcome, welcome, welcome. Sorry, we started a few minutes early, but come inside, have a seat. Come. This way. So, number one, the Alter Rebbe says, when you go by the rules, what happens is, so you're saying, I can't help them. Why can't I help them right now? Because I don't have what to give them. I don't have. So, halachically, and by the rules, do you have to give them? You don't have to. The problem is that you're limiting yourself to what you're doing based on what the rules are. So what's going to happen now if you have an issue and you need help from God? And you turn to God, I need help. I'm working, I'm putting in my effort, I'm doing what I'm supposed to, and guess what? I'm struggling. So God can say, okay, work harder. Work harder. Like, what do you want from me? And unfortunately, you can end up becoming a charity case by yourself. Why? Because the only reason why you're helping these people, according to Alter Rebbe saying help them, because we have compassion. You don't have to. But if you're going to say, no, I go by the rules. Rule book says my life is just like theirs, and therefore if they have a struggle, I also have a struggle, I'm exempt. Guess what? When you're going to have a struggle, God's going to say, okay, work harder. Deal with it. On the other hand, Alter Rebbe says, when you, on the other hand, go ahead and say, you know what, even though I don't have to give them, I don't have to. But what did the Alter Rebbe say? Give them anyway. Am I doing what I have to? No, I'm giving, even though I don't have to. So guess what? Now, God forbid, you'll be in trouble. You'll turn to God and you'll say, God, I need help. God can tell you, work harder. God can tell you it's your issue because you're not behaving that way. In other words, when you create the reality that you're willing to do whatever is needed to help somebody else, even though you don't have to, when you're going to need help, you know what's going to happen? God will turn to you and God will help you. So that is the first reason what the Alter Rebbe is saying is that even though maybe, yes, halachically you don't have to help them, but the Alter Rebbe says, please, I'm begging by you, help them anyway. So that you're not limiting your opportunity for great help from God when you're going to need that help. That's point number one. Second thing the Alter Rebbe says, in life, when you go through life, life is great. But every once in a while, we need to turn to God for some compassion. Whatever it may be, whether you want to get some kind of a job, a promotion, you want to embark on a new business venture, you want to explore new areas of Kabbalistic insight that you were never able to break through. It could be physical, it could be mental, it could be emotional, it could be, and whatever it may be. Now, if you go by the rules are the rules. But we all always once in a while want compassion from God. You're working on something, you want to have like a gift, you want things to open up for you. What is that called? You want compassion from God. So if you want compassion from God in your areas of your life, you want to not just be happy, you want to be super happy, that you need God's help for that. So the Alter Rebbe says again, have compassion for these people who, again, you might have every excuse not to. Be compassionate and you'll receive compassion from God. That's the second point the Alter Rebbe says. Second reason why he's saying that even though you might not have to, you should do it anyway. Third thing the Alter Rebbe says as follows. Look at yourself. We are human beings. We're human beings. Now humans are not what? Angels. Angels are perfect. What does that mean? They do the right thing. They say the right thing. They think the right things. We're humans. Humans make mistakes. So when someone tells you I'm perfect, either they're lying, no offense, or they're an angel. But a human, they're not. Humans make mistakes. Now, so since we're humans, and humans make mistakes against God, obviously, and we sin, because it says that even a tzaddik, even if someone's extremely righteous, there's no such thing as a tzaddik who doesn't sin. People sin. Now, if you sin, guess what? You've sinned. How do we delete the sins? How do you delete the sins? There's one answer. What's the answer? When you give charity, that wipes away the sins. Not only that, we all know the famous line that says, tzedakah, charity, tatzil, will save you mimavis. Even sins that, God forbid, are so severe that the punishment is what? Is death. Even such great sins, if you go ahead and you give charity, you can wipe away all those sins. Tzedakah, tatzil, mimavis. Charity can wipe it all away. So in other words, so since charity wipes away sins, you have an opportunity to give charity. The charity will take away your sins, and it can save you, God forbid, from even some serious issues of death. Give charity. And the Alter Rebbe says, let me ask you a question like this. We all have a budget, what you live on. You have a certain amount for food, for clothing, for shelter, for travel, car, whatever your budget is. We also have a certain amount that we predict for health care, whether it's health insurance, whether it's doctor co-pays, whatever it may be. Now, and let's say whatever the percentage of your budget is for medical, it's a certain percentage. We hope it's always less, but there's a certain percentage. What happens, God forbid, if someone gets really, really sick? And let's say you budgeted, pick any number in your head. You budgeted X for your medical issues, and all of a sudden, God forbid, someone got sick, and not only is it X, it's, oh my gosh, 10 times that amount, 100 times that amount, even 1,000 times the amount. I mean, crazy amounts of money. That's it? You're not going to try to get help? You're not going to try to heal yourself? Would anyone ever put a price tag, how much they're willing to spend on health? No. We all know people go into debt. People mortgage their houses. People mortgage their whole future for their children and their grandchildren for health reasons. Today they have all these, GoFundMe and all these campaigns, they raise money. Why? Because when it comes to health, is there a price tag? No, because you want to live, you want to be healthy, you want to be happy, you want to function. Now, that is about what? What kind of health? Physical health. So the Alter Rebbe says, let me ask you a question like this. What happens when it comes to spiritual health? And you, God forbid, spiritually not well? Spiritually. You're lacking in faith in God. You're lacking in having love for God, or for God, in a loving relationship with God. Now we all know if you have a great relationship with God, how is life? Not only great, it's beyond great. Because it's with God. You have a strong, beautiful relationship with God, it's a great thing. Now, how much are you willing to give for that relationship with God? Is there a limit? There shouldn't be. Would you give more for a spiritual healing than physical healing? You would hope. For sure. So if you're willing to give any dollar amount for physical healing, for spiritual healing should be any dollar amount and then some. So the Alter Rebbe says again, when it comes to spiritual healing, we should be ready to give anything and everything. So here someone's reaching out to you and they need help. And let's even say you're struggling, and you're not paying your bills, and you're borrowing money, but you have an opportunity once in a lifetime to help someone that has nothing. When you help that person, as Alter Rebbe said, not only is it going to wipe away your sins, it's actually going to heal you spiritually. So why wouldn't you do it? And therefore the Alter Rebbe says, yes, even though maybe halakhically you don't have to, because the Jewish law can't demand from you to do it, but if you had any spiritual insight, you would for sure do it. It wouldn't even be a question. The Alter Rebbe doesn't give up. He gives another reason why you should do it. And the Alter Rebbe says like this. When you're giving charity, so one might think, take whatever dollar amount is in your head, and you give to a poor person, or someone in need. So you feel like, it's mine, and I'm giving to that person. And the Alter says, no. Any time you give charity, it's not a gift to the poor person. It's actually, you ready for this? It's a loan to God. When you give whatever the dollar amount of charity to the poor person, to the person in need, again, it looks like you're taking from your pocket, it's yours, and now you transfer it over, and you'll never see it again. The Alter says, no. It's a loan to God. And if it's a loan to God, not only does God pay you back the loan that you gave, He actually pays you back double. So if you help someone, $100, $1,000, whatever the amount is, it's a loan, and you're going to get back double. So here you're telling me you're struggling. Okay, am I asking you to give away your bread and butter? Am I asking you to borrow money and never see it again? It's a loan, and it's a loan to God. And God's going to pay you back double. And as we know, it's the only mitzvah that the reward you get in this world. The world come as well. But you get the reward in this world. You're going to get rewarded back in this world. You're going to get back the money you put in, plus double. It's like, why wouldn't you do it? Alter Rebbe goes further. He's proving his case here. Strong. He says, very simple. The fact is that everybody's helping these people. Everybody. They're out in Israel. They have no money. Everyone's sending them money. Now, the rule is, if everybody's doing something, it's very powerful. The power of community, if one person takes on a project, okay, it's a private project. But when everybody's doing it, your community, all the communities are doing it, everyone's on this list of giving, and you're not on the list, that's not a great thing. Because you're going to be noticed, you're not there. And you're going to be noticed in a very strong way. So therefore, if everybody's giving, do you want to be on the list? Absolutely. And then the Alter Rebbe finishes off on a beautiful positive note, and he says like this. When you actually give, and you give even though it's hard to give, you know what happens? Alter Rebbe is very, very simple. God, and the Alter Rebbe as well, says, will give you huge blessings. Huge blessings for success. So like, you can't go wrong. It's a home run situation. So what you see over here in this chapter, chapter 16 of Igeret Hakodesh, The Alter Rebbe revolutionizes the idea of supporting the concept that even if you're struggling, you should give charity anyway. And it might be hard, it might be difficult. But on the other hand, how can you not do it? That's number one. And more importantly, it's 100% a win situation. You'll get compassionate from God. You'll wipe out your sins. God's going to pay you back. You're involved with everybody, and you're going to get huge blessings. You can't go wrong. So this is a tremendous chapter. Anytime you're struggling, you say, let me just close up shop. Let me hold my pocket, my wallet, my hand, my fist. God says, no, don't go that way. On the contrary. Give, and you'll be blessed with great and beautiful blessings.